Look what happens. Esther comes this close to telling the king. Look at verse 7. Then Esther answered and said, my petition and request is this. Now, do you see that colon? And you see nothing after that? Let me tell you what has happened here. You have the king saying, baby doll, tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. I'll give it to you. I will grant whatever you need. Whatever you want, I'll do. You just tell me. And Esther comes, and Esther says, my petition, honey, what I really want is this. Silence. A pause. It's almost as she's about to tell him, and then she hesitates. She stops. Something in that moment tells Esther, now's not the right time. Something in that moment tells Esther, not now. Something in that moment tells Esther, I better wait. Now look, we've all been there. We've all been there when we've talked to people and we were going to say something and we say, I better not do that. That's what's going on with Esther here. Because look what happens in verse 8. After this pause, after this request. If I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, then let the king and Haman come to the banquet which I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king said. She says, I need one more day, I need one more banquet. Hey, I'm fixing you another banquet. Now, by the way, y'all, I want you to think about something real quick. Esther has thrown 2 banquets for the king, or is fixing to throw 2. She's thrown 1. Do you know, think about this for a second. Ladies, you don't fix a Thanksgiving meal, you don't prepare for a Thanksgiving meal the day before, the day of Thanksgiving. You don't go to the grocery store and buy your turkey, your cranberry sauce, your potatoes, and all your stuff you need to make pie. You don't do that the day of Thanksgiving. Now, stuff you've forgotten you will, but most of your stuff you've already got, you're ready to roll Thanksgiving, right? Esther has prepared this feast fit for a king. You don't do that in one morning. She's done this while she's been fasting. She had a plan. Now, she comes and she says, look, I want to throw you one more banquet. Now, can I just be honest with you? If I was the king, I would finally say, look, honey, I have asked you 3 times. What do you want? Honey, what do you need? Honey, what can I do for you? I'll give you anything you need, darling. Just 3 times I have said, what do you need? What do you need? Look, verse 3. Then she comes back, and he comes back, and he says it again in verse 6. And then in verse 8. She says it 3 times. 3 times. What do you need? What can I do for you? Honey, what do you want? If that would have been me, and I was talking to Wendy, finally I said, Wendy, I've asked you 3 times. Just tell me what you want. But the king don't do that. He don't say a word. He does not say a word about it. Now, all this comes back to what I was talking about before. God's timing. Now remember this. Why did Esther pause in verse 7? Something told her to wait. God's timing. Because let me tell you, when you get to chapter 5, verse 9, all the way through 14, you get a shift here. You just get a big time shift here. In fact, you're going to see God's timing. You are going to see God's timing because let me just tell you, in this 24-hour period till you get to chapter 6, verse 4, can I tell you why that chapter 7 I told you to remember? First of all, Haman's going to plan his own death. And then the king is going to be up all night long. God's timing. God's timing. Now you have a shift here in verse 9. And we see actually how egotistical this man by the name of Haman is. He's an egomaniac. Look in verse 9. Now I'm going to read all the way through the end. So Haman went out that day, joyful and glad, with a glad heart. Why was he joyful? Because he was the only one that has just been invited to a banquet with the king and the queen. He was on cloud nine. He was walking with his head, nose so far stuck up that if it rained, he would have drowned. He was excited. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he did not stand or tremble before him, he was filled with indignation against Mordecai. He has gone out so happy, so joyful, and he walks out and he sees Mordecai, and he is just as mad as a mashed cat. He is ill. He is just filled with indignation because Mordecai is still refusing to bow and pay homage to Haman. Verse 10, nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home. So he didn't do nothing about it. Now that fascinates me. That can only be God. Why wouldn't Haman just go jerk more? I mean, Haman had the power. Why didn't he just go jerk Mordecai up and say, come with me, big boy? But he didn't. He restrained himself. Now, he goes home, and he sent and called for his friends and his wife Zeresh. Then Haman told them of his great riches, the multitude of his children, everything in which the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the officials and servants of the king. Moreover, Haman said, besides Queen Esther invited no one but me to come in with the king to the banquet that she prepared, and tomorrow I am again invited by her along with the king. Yet all this avails me with nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. So let me just do this real quickly. Haman throws a party for himself. I told you, egomaniac, egotistical. He literally throws a party for himself. He invites all his buddies. He invites all his families, and then he proceeds to tell them how great he is. In fact, look what he says. He told them, he says, the king has promoted me. Nobody is higher up in the kingdom than me. Nobody. It goes the king and then me. I am the number 2. I am the vice president. I am the guy. He brags about the way that his promotion is. And then he says, he has advanced me above everybody else. Do you see that? Every other official he has, I'm over. He's bragging about his power. He's bragging about his position. He's bragging. He ends up bragging about. Look what he says in verse 12. Moreover, Queen Esther invited no one else but me. Hey, it was just the king, the queen, and me at a feast. That's how important I am. That is how important I am. And guess what? She's preparing it again tomorrow, and I get to go again tomorrow. He's sitting here and he's saying, I've done this, I've done that. Let me tell you what I've been doing. Me and the king has done this. Me and the king has done that. Nobody is more powerful in the kingdom other than the king than me. He is puffed up with honor. He has a high value of himself. He has all this power. He has all this wealth. He has all this acknowledgement. Now listen to this. Yet this avails me. He said, this don't mean squat to me because of one Jew. I got all this, and every time I see that Jew Mordecai, man, it just flies up. This guy had it all. He had power. He had riches. He had it all. And because one Jew wouldn't bow and pay homage to him, it just eats him up. Well, apparently, his wife, Zeresh, and buddy, let me tell you, she is a real winner. I mean, if you're married to a woman like this, God bless you. Well, apparently, she has heard Haman complain about Mordecai over and over and over and over and over again, and she's had it up to here. She's fed up with hearing about Mordecai. So guess what she tells her husband? Hey, honey, just kill him. Just kill him. Look what she says. Then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, let a gallows be made 50 cubits high, and in the morning suggest to the king that Mordecai be hanged on it. Then go merrily with the king to the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, so he had the gallows made. This woman told her husband, listen, look, I'm tired of hearing about it. Just kill him. Just kill him. And then you can go happily into the banquet. You're going to go kill a guy and then go happily into a banquet. What a woman. I mean, man, she's fantastic. And it seemed great. Now listen, when it says gallows, this is not gallows like we're thinking. If you remember, I don't know if I've said this on a video or not, but the Persians, hanging is not hanging like you see in the Westerns. The hanging would be impaling, and then they would display their bodies. Do you see in your scripture where it says 50 cubits high? They would want this would be a 75-foot pole that they would skewer Mordecai, that they would ram through Mordecai, and then pick him up. For people would be able to see Mordecai from miles away. Now that's just lovely, ain't it? Can I just tell you something? If this would have been me, and I got extended the golden scepter, can I tell you what I would have done? I would have said, I want that rascal's head. The king, I want that rascal's head right now. You give it to me right now. That's what I would have said. I would have said, I want it. But look, she don't do it. She planned a banquet. She was fasting. Listen, she just didn't walk in. Esther had a plan. Now look, she sits there through this whole banquet, not knowing Mordecai is fixing to move up. Or I'm sorry, Haman is fixing to move up Mordecai's execution day. She has no idea that's happening. She did not know that next morning Haman is going to come in and ask the king to kill Mordecai. She didn't know that. She had no idea during this banquet that was going to happen. She had no idea that the king is going to be up all night. Now, I'm fixing to give away some of next week's Sunday school lesson. She didn't know the king is going to be up all night because he could not sleep. He could not sleep at all. And he says, I need something to read. Bring me a history book. And they go and they pick out a scroll, but just not any scroll. It was a scroll of when Mordecai saved the king's life. She wouldn't have known that. And you say, wow, what is it? God's timing. God's timing. Can I tell you one thing, and I'll end right here. When we are in our desperate moments, who do you turn to? Let me just show you something real quickly, and I'll end. Chapter 4. Go back, turn your Bibles back to chapter 4. Do you remember when Esther tells Mordecai, you go and you tell the Jews to fast for me 3 days and 3 nights? Let me show you this. Chapter 4, verse 16 says, Go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan and fast for me. Neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. Esther had her maids fast with her. More than likely, pray with her. She had people around her during this difficult moment in her life. Do you know what you got? The church. You got the church. You got brothers and sisters that can be around you, just like Esther and these maids, and pray with you, and be with you, and comfort you, and love on you. Folks, that's why you need a church. That's why you need to be a part of the church. Well, that's all for Esther chapter 5. Thank you for joining us. God bless you. We want to invite you to be a part of our Sunday school here at Macedonia, 9 o'clock. Love to have you. Until then, have a great week. Thank you and God bless.